Hey everybody, what's up? Gary Simon here. So today we have a sponsored video from Framer. Now I've been really excited for this opportunity to be able to actually take a look at this relatively new prototyping tool that they have available because it can do things that other tools simply can't. So what I want to show you is an example of the project that we're going to be creating in this video. So we can see we have this simple login screen. This was actually imported from Figma. So you can import your designs from Figma into Framer for the purpose of prototyping. And what's really cool, you can see here, we can actually type in these. They actually make it very easy to transition any of your input elements into real elements. How cool is that? So we click login now. We have a very simple transition-based push slide transition from that page to this page, but just wait, it gets much cooler because look at this. Wowzers. So actually, this is only one of many ways that you can filter through different card type of UI transitions, or you can slide them. Very, very cool. Not only that, we can do stuff like this as well, which seamlessly transitions using what's called magic motion between one frame to the other, and it automatically animates them based on the changes of the various properties of your UI elements. Very, very cool. So we're going to be checking that out along with a lot more features. And ultimately, if you want to try it, it's 100% free, but there are paid plans. And if you want 20% off, definitely click on the very top link in the YouTube description. It's a custom link for this channel, and you'll get that 20% off. All right, so as always, make sure to subscribe, and let's get started. All right, so what we have here is we're actually in Figma, all right? Because the very first thing that I want to demonstrate is the fact that you can take an existing design here that was made entirely in Figma, and you can import it into Framer. And I'll show you how to do that. But basically, I took here, what's happening here is I went to illustrations.co. I used this particular SVG graphic, downloaded it, and then just kind of rearranged it a little bit, situated it, and created just kind of like a fake login form of some sort for an iPhone 11 Pro Max. All right. So what you want to do is you want to save, obviously, if you're working in Figma and you want to import something, you want to save it and you want to copy the URL. And then in Framer, we want to come here after you create your account and just click on New. And we'll hit Create there. And here we go. Here is the interface. So before we actually import that, I'll just give a real quick rundown of how the interface or the UI here is structured. I'm going to increase the browser here just a little bit just so we can see things a little bit better. And basically what we want just to look at is the fact that we have up here's the nav bar, main navigation, and up here you can see that basically there's a number of icons for doing different things. So over here in this section is insert and import. So insert, I would kind of call this they're sort of like plugins basically, and we'll take a look at that more specifically. Import, we can import things from Figma. So we'll get to that in a second. But then when you're actually working with an actual interface, here's all your options to create what are called frames, which we'll do. We have stacks. You can insert text, create scroll areas, and pages as they're called. And then there's more like the whole social aspect of working with different team members for commenting and handing off. Over here is kind of what you'll see is kind of like the equivalent to layers that you see in most of these applications. And then over here you have your properties, and of course in the main section right here in the center is where your design and your prototyping rather takes place. So let's go ahead and you can go ahead and get started, by the way, by just creating a frame. So you don't have to import anything from Figma. You don't have to start that way. So just to show you that, you can click frame, and then you can choose any of these different presets. Even if you're only focused on a desktop, you can click this, and so you can get started this way. But what we're going to do is delete this, and instead we're going to go ahead and import that URL. So paste the Figma project URL, and then go ahead and hit import. And down here it's importing from Figma. It takes maybe about a few seconds, and there we go. A pixel perfect representation of what we designed in Figma that is now here in Framer, available for us to use. So there's a couple cool things that you can do for interactive elements like form inputs. So this is a form input, obviously, for a username. if we actually want people to be able to click on this. So if we hit play right now, we'll see in this little window, which we can, by the way, this preview window, we can expand this. If you click on it, nothing happens, of course, because we haven't, and actually in a lot of applications, these prototyping applications, you can't really click and use form elements, but in Framer we can. And the way we can do that, and it's really cool because it will maintain all the exact styling. All we do is we right click, we choose replace with default, and then input. So now you can see it has a purple outline and it says type something in there. So over here in the properties inspector, we can see there's a placeholder value, and we can completely get rid of that if we wish, or a default value like my username, and it shows up. And then also it allows you to specify all these other properties, which we won't really focus on here. You can also turn them into text areas, passwords. Very, very cool. So let's actually do that for the password field beneath it. We'll take this and we will do the same thing. Right click, replace with default input, and we will change this to a password input. All right, so now it's a password. We'll get rid of type something. And now if we go ahead to play it, we'll see that we can type in here, and we could also type some sort of password. Very, very cool. So that's a really cool feature, and I'm glad that they included something like that for us. So now at this point, let's make a very simple transition-based, basically a transition going from one of these frames or these artboards, whatever you want to call them, to another one. So what we'll do is we can, if you're working with the same sort of design, you can Alt and just left click, and that will automatically create a duplicate. And that's pretty much same for duplicating, single items as well here in the interface. Or again, if you don't want to use the same UI, you can just click on frame, and you want to start from scratch. And we just choose iPhone 11 Pro Max because that's what I was specified here in Figma. And so that's what I'm going to do here. So as I'm going to show you, you can actually create layouts here solely within Framer if you wish. And so what you can actually use is you can use a frame, and you can custom draw out a frame within a frame essentially, because this whole thing is a frame as well. And as you can see, it has all these options. We have the ability to fill it, border, shadows, inner shadows, blur, and I can add filters to it. So it's a design app as well. So what we can do is take this opacity, bump that all the way up. Let's get this color here, which happens to be that fill. So I'm going to copy this color code, and we'll just make this the same one right there. All right. So this is just going to be kind of like a normal mobile nav bar sort of situation. So we can hit T or specify text up here just to put in text. So this would be like a logo, office shower. Wait, that kind of doesn't sound right. Office shower. Let's change that to office spec. There we go. Obviously, I didn't have a name for this before creating this tutorial. Very unprofessional. We're going to do Nunito. I like that. And you can see it's Google Fonts and custom, so that's quite flexible there. We'll make this bold. And that's looking pretty good right there. We could also have icons, and instead of having to design them ourselves, or if you download it, you can also download SVGs and just drag them right in off your desktop or a different folder, and that'll work as well. But you can also, and this is the first time I'm going to show this really cool feature, is the insert. We can insert all of these different things, like frames, interactions, an interactive UI kit right here, project components. There's a lot, and there's third-party ones, there's official ones. What we want to do is a search for something called icon, and you can see there's default components icon set. So this is an icon set, and it's actually pretty robust. There's a ton of them. Let's hit insert, and as you can see, we have the Framer icon by default, but we have all these options here. You can change the color very easily. We're going to change this to white and then just move it up here. We want the hamburger menu icon, all right? So to get that, we can just go and find down here, menu. Now, one thing I think there could be definitely an improvement is to have more of a preview, maybe like a small window that shows all the icons previewed instead of having to rely on this this menu where there's no context in terms of showing. One thing though you can do is you can select it, make sure it's highlighted, go up and down. So that's kind of a quick way, but still it'd be nice to see all of those kind of mapped out. Nonetheless, now we can take this, we could scale it down, and now we have our mobile menu. Very exciting. So at this point, I want to demonstrate some of the other things that you can do. So let's say, for instance, for this little app, like after you log in, this is just going to be an app for presenting maybe your office space. A lot of people like seeing what people are doing. If you're a designer and you're a coder, what does your office space look like? So what we'll have is we're going to have another type. Let's just take the logo and we'll Alt and drag down, and we're going to make this black for a label. And we're going to call this latest offices. All right. So there's latest offices. Maybe I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Kind of reinforce the visual hierarchy just a tad bit there. So we have this, you're going to have this move down maybe right around there. And by the way, your mouse scroll wheel will allow you to zoom in and out, and then hitting the space bar will allow you to pan around. So right here, I want to have kind of like just a thumbnail gallery of actual photos of offices, all right? And there's some really cool things you can do with that in terms of making them scrollable in different ways to scroll them, vertically, horizontally, and also special effects like cube and 3D scrolls. Very cool. So what we want to first do is we're going to create a frame over here that's going to house them specifically. So if I take our frame and I just come out here and just drag something like this, and I want to make sure that it's the same width as this frame right here for the actual device frame. So that width happens to be 414. The height right now doesn't really matter, just so it's somewhere around there. And then we're going to go ahead and from here, we're going to drag from the desktop a picture of an office. So I'm just going to drag this in and put it right there. Now it uploads it, and it's a really large picture. I probably shouldn't have done that, quite that large. But what we'll do is just scale it down. So we can take this, Shift Alt, scale down right around there. We'll zoom up, and what we can do is we can make this larger here. Yeah, right around there. And there we go. So overflow, we can choose to hide that if this is showing up outside the bounds of the frame that it's sitting in. Let's also create a frame on top of it, because I want to have some text on top of it, but this is a light image, so that text needs to make sure that we need to make sure there's enough contrast for that text to show through. So what we'll do is create another frame on top of it. Think of it just kind of like just a rectangle sort of layer that you would create in any other design app. And we will come out here, make this 100%, but we can choose linear to create a gradient. And as you can see, our top one, we're just going to make that white, but also we're going to take the opacity down to 0%. All right, and then we'll choose the bottom. We're going to make that black and take that opacity down, maybe more like 50, maybe a little bit higher up. And of course, we can drag this instead of specifying a numeric value. And then we can go ahead and take the type tool, hit T, and we'll just do My Sweet Office, except we want to make it white. All right, so that's pretty cool right there. That's going to be our first basically kind of thumbnail-based card design. And what we want to do now is get this to show up in here in the correct way that will make it work with multiple of these elements right here. So we'll just call this, come over here, double click. We can rename this to Office 1. Let's go ahead and get things enlarged there. And what we'll do is go ahead and we'll go ahead and choose page over here. So you can use the page tool to draw a swipeable area and then connect it to the content that you want. So the swipeable area will be defined as a page right here, and then we'll connect it to this content and then a couple other ones that we'll do real quickly. So with that in mind, we'll take page and then just draw out an area, same width, right around here. So as you can see, click and drag the connector to any frame on the canvas. So this is a frame, and now we've connected, and we can see it automatically shows it inside of here. Now, in order for this to really work and for it to make sense, we need to replicate this. But before we do that, let's create the actual transition between this one, where you click on Login Now, and then it takes you to this one. So this is a very simple. We just take this button right here, and then we drag it over to this one. Now we can see under Interactions where it says Tap, we can click on Transition to change the trigger type. You can choose Tap, Tap Start, Click, Mouse Down, Up, Enter, Mouse Leave. You can also change the target from any of the existing frames on your project or back to the previous one. And then you have Type, which you can fade from one to the other. You can flip them. You can do a push, magic motion. We'll actually do that, but not for this one. So very cool. We're just going to do push. You can choose a direction, and there we go. Actually, you know what? I haven't tried flip yet. I'm kind of curious what that's going to look like. So let's make sure we select this particular frame, hit play, and okay, that's just a basic flip. Very cool, though. So if we want to change that, of course, we select it, change this to push, and then we can go back, hit play, and there we go. Not exactly a very exciting animation, but just wait until we get to the animation for this area. It's going to be very fun. So now what we want to do is we want to take this and we're going to replicate it 3 times. So left click, Alt, and down. Now let's just customize this. I keep on, sometimes I hold Alt in the scroll wheel. You don't want to do that because it kind of hides everything and you have to get it back. Make sure you use Control in your scroll wheel. What we want to do is come back here. We'll make, we'll go ahead and let's just move this temporarily. And then we'll go ahead and delete that. We'll put in Office 3 right here, even though I labeled it incorrectly. And we'll scale that down to, and get this position up correctly. And just put it right on top, right there. Looks pretty good right there. All right, so for this one, we'll name this to Office 2. And then we'll just do that real quick one more time. Alt, and then change this to Office 3. Again, you know the drill, hopefully. At this point, we have one more, Office 2, I believe. And we'll put that in here. Just scale this up just like that. And I think we lost wherever the other thing went, but that's okay. We'll just Alt and duplicate that. There we go. So I'll go ahead and adjust these real quickly. My Suite Office, we'll just do this Business Office, Awesomeness, and then simple but effective. There we go. All right, so now we have some unique different slides here that we can work with. And now we can go ahead and just take this and connect it to the other two. So when we have this selected, we can see for page, which is the type of element that this is, we can choose the direction if we want it to be a horizontal slider. Let's actually just try it out right now. We could select this. And now you can see there's a grab icon over the page area that we've defined right here. So we can just drag them over and they work automatically. And it has really nice responsiveness. It's very fluid and it doesn't feel like it's, you know, jagged or anything like that. But we can also change this to a vertical. So if we hit play again, look at that. It just works very well. What's even cooler though is we can change this effect cube and a couple other options. So if we hit play, look at that. Let me make that bigger. I want this to be bigger. Well, okay, I guess it's not going to get that much bigger, but that is so cool. I love the effect here. Very, very awesome. So you can also do a couple other things here. For instance, with the page selected, you can change the padding here. So this would make more sense if we had this to none and maybe we had like a horizontal sort of swipe. We can change the padding. So watch what that does. It puts the padding automatically inside. Now we can see the next, the beginning of the next slide, and we can increase a gap slightly. And that way it gives us kind of a visual indicator that there's another an element right here. And then what we can do is we can take the padding to a finer element and maybe get rid of the left to 0. There we go. So now we can go ahead and hit play. And now we have a visual indicator that, hey, there's another slide there that we can use. But you know what? I think the cube thing's so cool. I'm a sucker for good effects that I'm going to switch these options, put 0, and make sure we go here, put 0, and then we'll just go ahead and choose cube. And of course, you could play with all these other options, like what is cover flow? What is that about? Okay, so it kind of comes in and out. Very cool. Notice how smooth everything is. It works very well. What's a wheel? I'm not sure how that exactly was different from one of the other ones, but what is pile? Okay, so the pile, they stay on top of each other. Very nice. We're staying with cube. All right, I love cube. So now what happens, what would happen if, for instance, we wanted to make it so that, oh wait, what is this? It's not the same thing. Oh, it's because it was a horizontal. I forgot to change it to a vertical one. So let's change that back here, right there, to vertical. There we go. That was still cool though. And I would probably have some sort of icon here, maybe like a little scroll indicator, maybe that shows up right here to tell people that you can push down or scroll down to see through more. And in fact, let's go ahead and get this pushed up. And let's get this pushed over. Let's replicate this. So we'll hit Alt. We'll drag it just right here for now, although it won't be there. Let's make it black. And let's change this here to, I think it has a watch for like latest news, right? That makes sense. So we'll just put this over there. Latest news. There we go. Now we have a nice icon to kind of set things up. And yeah, that'll work pretty good. And then let's go ahead and make this so that when somebody tries to click on one of these, because right now you can grab and swipe. But what happens if you click on one? Okay, maybe that'll take you to another user interface where it elaborates on each one of these potential stories. So to do that, we'll go ahead and create another frame from scratch, iPhone Pro 11 Max. And let's say somebody clicks on this one, the middle one. All right, I like this this picture. It's dark and nice. Let's go ahead and we'll take all 3 of these elements. Oops. Trying to select just, there we go. And I'm going to Alt and drag those over here. All right. So now at this point, what we'll do is I'm going to get rid, well, maybe we'll keep it. I was talking about that. I was thinking about getting rid of the overlay gradient effect, but I think we'll just keep that there. All right. So what we want to do is scale this up, or both of these rather, maybe to like right here. And maybe we can expand the size of this a bit. Let's just make it like right there, just a little bit. And then we'll just use our text right here. And I'm going to copy and paste some lorem ipsum, good old lipsum. And then I will increase the line height just a tad bit, just to create some content in this section. And by the way, if you wanted to, you could create a page and then define the type and the frame and connect those, and that could be, scrollable type if you wanted to. We'll just leave it like this for now. And then finally, we will take, let's just take one of these, Alt, drag it over, and then change this to a arrow left circle. There we go. So we can go back. Oops, don't do that. Arrow left circle. There we go. Get that situated nice. There we go. So then what we can do is with this, we can select it for this particular frame, push it over here, and this is going to be a tap. The target is this element. We probably should rename this to, like, I don't know, office details. Push is going to be magic motion. Now this is the exciting part. It's kind of similar to Adobe XD's or Adobe Experience Design auto animate, where it will animate the same elements based on and create smooth transitions between the size and the positions and all that of the elements. I just realized I hooked up the wrong element here. This shouldn't be going there. We should be instead taking this one. There we go, because these are the same office graphics. All right, so now this is going to be magic motion. You can choose spring for that. I think I'm gonna change it to ease. So you have a lot of great control over the easing options here. We're just gonna do ease in, and maybe we'll do it for like 0.5 seconds. You can create delays and all that good stuff. So now watch what happens if we choose this. We hit play, and we're swiping through, and then we click. Very, very, very cool. So now if we wanted to go back, we choose this option, or this icon rather, and instead of dragging it somewhere, well, we could just drag it back here, click, and we're just going to change target to back to previous. All right, so now let's go back here, hit play. All right, back to previous, and there we go. All right, very, very cool. So now at this point, what we're going to do is, if you wanted to have like each one of these as well pointing somewhere else to like their own, what you would do is simply just replicate this, change this background photo, and make sure all this matches up with that picture in the same process. So we're not going to do that because that'd be rather repetitive. So now at this point, just to help you get a little bit more practice, under your belt with working with like the swipeable areas, let's have another section, and we'll do maybe we'll just replicate these. We'll just do last week's picks or something like that. All right, and then we'll have another area where we have another section with maybe horizontal based elements that we can swipe through. All right, so again, to do that, we're going to create, let's see here, we will create a frame here, and we'll come down here at the bottom portion, and for each one of these, we'll go ahead and create maybe something around this size right here, and let's just give this a background color. So we'll choose blue. Yeah, right around there will work quite well. By the way, you can also change the border radiuses of these elements. So we can click that. Maybe right around there is good. All right, and let's do a page here. All right. And if we hook this up, if we hook this rather up to here, and then we'll create a couple more of these. So notice how it fills out everything here. To stop that, we can change the width from stretch and the height from stretch to auto. All right, so now let's increase this, and we can also increase the gap like that, and maybe even padding. So when we have the padding, we're gonna have to adjust this, bring this up, and right around there kind of works well. And again, maybe we'll duplicate that way, and then we'll take this, and we'll have 4 of them. And now let's hit play. All right. And look at that. It just works. So very exciting. And of course, these could all be click-based and have their own elements. So I really just suggest, in order to really understand how these all work effectively with each other, just to keep on through muscle memory, trying to do, go over the steps that I did, at least to understand that basic stuff. Now, there's a couple other cool things that you can do with this, with the insert menu. So if we type in device here, this is preset with a custom device. So if you wanted to show things in a nice looking device container, it's really simple. So I'm going to hit insert, and we could see that we have this right here is showing our device in this area right here. So we want to change this. The reason it's messed up looking is because it's on iPhone 11 Pro by default, but we want Pro Max. There you go. Now we hit play. Look at this. Has this really nice, simple sort of iPhone 11 Pro Max interface there. Hit login now. Look at that. So exciting. Yeah, overall, very impressed with this. So now, let's say, for instance, you did your design and you want to be able to show it to others, and maybe you're working with the team or whatever. So what you would do is you click this share button right here, and here's the share prototype URL, and you can change this to private if you wish. Obviously, if we choose open prototype, it's going to show this here in the Framer context where you can give anybody the link. This is exactly what they're going to see now in a browser, and it will work just fine. So log in. Look at that. That is so cool. I can't get over it. And there we go. Very, 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 very cool stuff. So just a real quick recap about, basically what we did. We used Figma here. I didn't show you the design process of this, but if you're familiar with Figma, this is fairly straightforward. We basically took a Figma prototype URL, we imported it right here. We are also able to customize the text fields here. This is actually a password input, and this is a regular input where people can actually type in. Additionally, when we set up this very cool cube swipeable effect here based on these 3 card-based photograph thumbnails, and then we made it so that you can easily click on one of these with their magic motion feature, which is very cool. It'll just automatically transition 2 states seamlessly between each other. And yeah, then we created this horizontal scroll-based area, and it worked very well. And then finally, we used this device plugin, which was so simple. I mean, in order to do this, and most other design apps, you would have to sit there meticulously editing and composing this into your layers, and it would be kind of like a nightmare. But this was a couple clicks. Very, very cool. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I will definitely be checking out this tool more, and I have another video that's going to be releasing within the next month or two on more things that you can do with Framer for sure. So if you want to take advantage of Framer, again, you can use it for free, but they also do have paid plans. And if you want access to those paid plans at 20% off, click the very top link here in the YouTube description, and as a custom link that they set up for me and my subscribers like you, exclusively. So definitely check that out. Yeah, and make sure if you enjoyed this to subscribe. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.